This is today's business leaders. Actionable advice from real-world professionals. And now here's your host, Gabe Arnold.
Thanks for jumping on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So keeping busy, huh?
Yeah, it's been nice and busy. We have lots going on here in the group, and
Good.
plenty going on with my business and everything here. So
yep, for sure.
So
well, I'm excited about talking about some automation. So I think, both of us are pretty concentrated on this and trying to make our lives a little bit easier and give us some scale and work on lead conversion and everything else. So
Good. Let me tell you, I'll just kind of introduce it for everybody that's going to be watching now. And
okay.
What's up, John? And Ben's on. And as you're on, just say hello. I know the first one I posted didn't take for some reason, but I think everybody can see us now.
Yep.
But the reason that I really felt like this was something important for the group is Jessie and I chatted a month or so ago, I think right after the first of the year. And his tool is phenomenal. But before we get to that, he's gonna walk us all through it. I'll have him share his screen and just kind of show us how the tool works. But for me, this is something that I've always struggled with a lot, is like figuring out how to be effective with like calling and texting and reaching out to people, because in my experience, it's one of the most, like, between calls and texts is one of the best ways to get people to show up to your appointments or show up to your webinars or engage with you. And so the way I've always solved it until I met Jessie, and this is what we're moving towards now, is I've always just hired somebody. So, if you hire somebody, overseas, that potentially can work, but you really need to pay, $6 an hour. So if you're paying like $240 a week for that to get something decent. And then it takes, in my experience, it takes like hiring 4 or 5 people overseas to get one that's a fit. Or you can hire stateside, and you need them to be full-time if you want this role to be effective. And I typically start people at like $12 an hour. So I'm spending like $500 a week. So you're somewhere between $1,000 to $1,200 to $2,000, $2,400 to do this all manually. And it's not necessarily the best use of a team member's time, in my opinion. It needs to be done one way or the other. You've got to consistently reach out, but it's expensive and it's time consuming, and it's not consistent when it's not automated. So when I saw what you had, to offer, I just want to make sure everybody was aware of it and just see how amazing the automation can be through the process. So
cool.
So why don't you take it from here? Just give us a quick introduction of kind of how you got started with this, and then you should be able to click share your screen, and you can just demo whatever you think. I'm here to learn too. So
okay, yeah, no problem. So everyone, my name is Jessie. Last name is Beaudoin. So I was a mortgage lender. I got started on the internet a little while ago. Back in 1997, I started buying my first basically domain, bought Microsoft front page, so please don't laugh, and started teaching myself basically how to build some websites and do a little bit of programming. Got really good at SEO, got into the affiliate space, did really, really good with that. And then what ended up happening is I started watching things kind of change once the iPhone came out and about, right? And it first started off with Gmail, and what happened is we started seeing this decrease basically in natural organic traffic, because what they started doing was, localizing the search results. Because now all of a sudden, let's say if you ranked #1 for, whatever term, and you could clean house and get all this traffic for free, all of a sudden, like if you were some kind of localized business, you couldn't do that anymore, because Google would only return the results that were kind of pertinent in that surrounding location.
Yeah.
And that just accelerated really, really quickly once we basically got mobile, right? Because once we got mobile, and which is only 10 years old now, it basically kind of destroyed that entire space. So going from being able to get 3, 4, 500,000 visitors a month for free to all of a sudden like, okay, how do I get that same amount of traffic? Unless you're paying $100,000 a month, it's not happening. Or you're really creative on social and coming up with some good campaigns and stuff like that. So that's a little bit of a backstory for me. Always been in sales. I was in real estate and mortgage business since 1987. So the problem is very near and dear to me, because I was a salesperson, needed to follow up with those leads. I'm an experienced online marketer, so I understand that problem very well as, also basically. So Call Action, my company, is basically kind of a combination of these two things all in one shot, basically. So let me get into sharing my screen. So anyone that has any questions about call action, I will, let me pick the right one here. All right. What we can do is, and I think you should be seeing a help screen, right? So
Yep.
call action basically has this public help docs. So if you go to help.callaction.co, what we have in here basically is all of the how-tos on our software. We don't make anything basically private. We want you to basically be able to kind of see what this is about and how you can kind of work on this. So the general concept of call action is this. All marketing that is done online, offline, digital, print, radio, TV, doesn't matter what it is, it's designed to get basically three primary forms of inquiries. And that is going to be a phone call, which is your highest and most valuable kind of lead, right? Because it's the highest level of commitment to make that type of an inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be a text message, or it'll be an email lead, right? Or a form fill, a click funnel, a lead pages, whatever you want.
Right.
Facebook Messenger, obviously getting into the game very, very quickly, but it's still not the primary form of communication of people responding to some kind of, advertisement that's out there in the world.
Yeah.
So the way that we look at it is call action gives you some call tracking phone numbers that you're able to use. Those call tracking numbers are also email enabled. And what I mean by that is each phone number comes with its own dedicated email address. That allows us on the back end to have this very sophisticated email parser. So what we could do is we could take your ClickFunnels email form request. You could forward it into basically your call action email address that's associated with a phone number. And through that association, the call action phone number can then start to engage that lead automatically using some text automation. That seem pretty clear so far?
Yeah,
that
and I guess
that workflow there.
Yeah, and two questions. One, I still see the Zoom screen up, so I don't know if you're showing anything yet. So
yeah, sorry about that. Let me see here. New share.
And then second question, I'm just kind of curious. This is a little bit nerdy and technical, but when somebody fills in like a lead form and they put in their area code but not their country code, or like now I can see the help screen. Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Does it parse it and automatically autofill things in for you? Does it like, I was in telecom a little bit, not as much as you, so I'm just curious. Like if you get a 212 area code and the phone number without a country code, does it automatically fill that stuff in?
Yeah, all of our stuff is all just US based. We don't do anything internationally.
Okay.
So it's all basically primarily US based. We can do Canada too, but we don't proactively do Canada.
Okay.
We are, there's 300 million people here. We figure we could probably solve the problem here first.
No, that's fine. I was just curious. Well, no, that makes perfect sense. So
no problem.
You can forward in a form submit, and then your software parses it and pulls the phone number out of it automatically.
Exactly. We'll pull that number out of there. So I'll just kind of show you as an example in here. So if we basically, in call action, we go into email settings. And I'm just going to kind of show some of this stuff through the help docs because I think it's just an easy way for people to have a reference in the future to be able to go back into this. So as an example, this is basically the way that it will work. So let me just kind of show you in here. Let me make this available. So this is kind of the call action platform. So when you click on phone numbers, you can click manage. When you get into manage, you're going to get into a specific phone number that you could start managing.
Okay.
When you click on email settings, this is where the call action email address is associated with that particular phone number that will send out the text message to start basically inquiring with people. Okay. When we parse out that data, you can have this automated text message go out. Now, what we've done is we've set this up initially in the default system to wait about 2 minutes to make it feel real, right? And so you would do something like, hi, it's Gabe. I just got your email inquiry. I'm on another call right now. I know, let's try and get together on an appointment. Here's my Calendly link, Like if you want to get super automated, like super nerdy,
Right.
send out your Calendly link, let them self-pick basically their appointment, and then you're off and running to the races. And you have a phone number that's established there for them to be able to still text or communicate with you directly. Okay?
Cool.
So pretty powerful in that sense. Some of the other settings in here, you could just exclude some of the stuff from the email body, so the no reply and all of those kind of things. That's the basic stuff. So this is our low level kind of introductory. We just do this with all of the accounts on call action.
Okay.
Now, where this starts to get really, really interesting, and we'll focus a little bit on the form fills initially, is that we have what we call our drip campaign interface. This drip campaign interface that you can see here is going to allow you to build fully customized follow-up sequences that you can use with multiple touch points on multiple styles of touch points. So we have here basically delay. Delay is just a units from 1 to 60. In time, this is the time interval. So if you do 1 second, it's going to be 1 second. You use minute, it'll be 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, so on and so forth.
Cool.
As we kind of scroll down, you'll see here some of the available options. In the day's schedule, this gets very interesting because I could do a text message or a phone call or anything else that will go out at a specific date and time. So imagine you get an inquiry, and what we're trying to do is create this authentic automation, right? So I get an inquiry for basically a product that you are basically selling online. You acknowledge the customer with that immediate text, and then basically you say like, hey, let's try and connect, let's schedule an appointment. Now maybe the next day that person still hasn't responded back to you. So then you could say one day at 9:15, I now want to basically send out a voicemail message to that person. And what call action will allow you to do basically is save a pre-recorded voicemail. And you could say something like, good morning, it's about 9:15. I'm giving you a call because you had originally inquired yesterday about, and you make reference to whatever the product is, right?
Nice.
And I sent you a text message, give me a call when you have a chance. Now, all of the call action phone numbers just forward right back to your cell phone number. So if that person calls, we send you a text message before your phone rings, letting you know that this is the source of the call and get ready to answer it. And that's how you could start making the difference between the two.
Wow.
So that upfront notification of where the call is coming from is very, very powerful. And that way you could be in the right frame of mind and answer correctly at that moment in time. So the time interval is very, very powerful for you. Now, we have all of these different kinds of messages or different touch points that you can make with that particular customer. We allow you to send an audio text, a text with an image, a plain text, a text reminder, V-card, a video text, and a voice message. So I'll kind of go through each one of these. Audio text is a text message with an MP3 attachment. This is a beautiful pattern interrupt in marketing, because if someone gets this text message with an MP3 attachment, they can press play, and now audibly they will hear you, and you're able to convey much more emotion and tone and sales through basically that MP3. And since most people never listen to their voicemails, this is just a nice way to kind of get in there and
force them to listen to your
with
audio.
that person. Okay.
Yeah.
So image text, again, super, super powerful. We work a lot in the real estate community. So what ends up happening is like your reviews as a business become really, really important, right? And so if you ever been on Zillow, you could see they highly promote the number of reviews that you have in your profile. So what we found is if we basically maybe do an instant text or something pretty quick, you want to build natural feeling kind of delays. So 30, 40 seconds before the first one goes out. So you could do this kind of nice double text. So it's one text message, 11 seconds later, hey, by the way, here's my reviews, and you attach that as an image directly to that text message. This will work for any business. If you're a plumber, or if some kind of lead gen person, or you're trying to service basically leads that you're creating on behalf of, if you run an agency, all of those kinds of things. It just helps build that branding of what's basically taking place. All of our text messages across the board, emoji enabled. So we send emojis across the board on everything. Text reminder, what this allows us to basically do is we're going to text the business owner a reminder. So think of this as a drip campaign, but with your task list built inside of it, okay? So if you schedule a text reminder, maybe what you want to do is you want to do text message, text message, text message, and then a text message back to yourself to say, hey, don't forget to pick up the phone and call this person.
Nice.
Okay? Really, really powerful to have that incorporated in the drip campaign instead of it being completely separate. Also, what this does, it helps you work with basically, if you think of CRMs, right, it's kind of like an email. My task list, I started off at email 0, right?
Yeah.
And I did everything to try and stay email 0. But most of us, what will happen is, 6 months down the line, you got 400 unread emails. So if you work a CRM, you're going like, okay, well, I got to follow up with this lead. I schedule a task sometime in the future. You wake up, you make that outbound phone call, probably doesn't answer. Now you got to push that task back. And all of a sudden your task list goes from 1 or 2 or 3 things to all of a sudden you have 400 things that are due today. And just mentally, that's inhibiting right from the very beginning as soon as you sit behind the CRM, right?
Yeah.
So we just figure by pushing the reminders in real time, it's much easier for me to be at Starbucks and get a text message that says, hey, call this guy right now. I'll go like, oh, all right, that'll take me 3 minutes, no problem. Boom, bang it out, move on basically to the next thing. We also do V cards. So this is basically all of my contact information. We can automatically deliver that to the person so that you could be top of mind, because if you give them your email, your website, any phone number that you might call that person back from, because most of us are never going to answer if we don't recognize the caller ID. So the goal is if we send a V card with all of the possible phone numbers that you might call from, no matter what phone number you call from, that caller ID will appear, increases your call connect rates, basically.
Yeah, that's a great point. And could you, this just came to mind, but could you include in that message with the V card, could you say, here's my V card, save it and check it out because I gave you like a present inside of it? Could you bury something in there if you wanted to?
No, the only thing you can do basically is just, the links to a URL, or maybe have another URL attached to that basically that you can drop off. But yeah, okay. Nothing natively inside of there basically.
Well, I mean, in a V card, I'm just thinking like, that's what I meant. Like you could say like, hey, here's my V card, go ahead and save it and check out the link inside of it or something.
Oh, like that. Yeah. I mean, you could put like a URL. It could be like a bit.ly with a PDF or something like that basically.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
And then we can do native MMS video. So what this allows you to do basically through call action is record a native MMS video directly from your phone, upload it into the call action platform, and basically either have it as part of the messages that are going out in your sequence. So imagine if you sent a text, 3 hours later you do a voicemail, and then maybe late that afternoon you send a video that basically says like, hey, I just wanted you to put a name and a face together. So we can do all of those kind of touch attachments all together, all in one shot. So really powerful way for you to build basically campaigns really, really simply. Now attaching the campaigns, let me just kind of show you. Drip. So where is that here? Okay, so attaching these specific drip campaigns that you can create, pretty easy. You're just going to have this associated field with a specific phone number. You select whatever campaign you want from this drop-down list. And so if the call is missed, it will automatically attach that drip campaign and start. There's also a setting for the email, and then you can do the same kind of thing, basically. It'll automatically, any email that's received, you start that engagement going through there directly. Cool. So also from that, what you're able to do is once I talk to someone, this is where normally, the magic is going to basically happen. And so when you speak to someone directly, 95% of the time, 97% of the time, that lead requires some future follow-up. And this is where the money is at, right? So we're doing pretty good about doing the speed to lead and responding to someone, which is proven to have like a 400% increase if you respond in 1 or 2 minutes versus 20 minutes in your overall lead conversion. But it's the other, and if you're lucky, you're going to convert 2 to 5%. It's the other 95%. This is where all the money is at. So what you can do with call action is after you speak to someone, you could build drip campaigns that say, call me in a month, and it starts in a month from now. And because that person already has had interactions, called your number, maybe spoken to you, did all those kind of things, you have a very easy way to reconnect with that person, because when we send that text message coming from the same phone number at some point in the future, reconnecting with them so they can see that you're following up as you indicated. Okay? Really, really powerful. And with all of these merge fields that we've created, we have 37 different merge fields. So if you want to call in 3 months from now, you just merge in the merge field that says call in 3 months. It'll say like, hey, I spoke to you last June. Right?
Nice.
And it'll start throwing those dates in there. We also have dates, times, and things like that so that every text message kind of becomes sequential to one another and makes it feel basically very natural. Okay. So on our mobile device, it's really simple. You just basically select the one as soon as you talk to them, pick your drip campaign, call it a day, and off it basically goes.
Nice.
So really, really simple in terms of that. I'll show you another product that we have, which is called our text tool. Text tools are really popular. If you're basically in the direct response space, you're probably, if you're hyper noticed and hyper aware of, marketing, to start taking a look at late night TV right now. And what you're going to start seeing is that all of the like high pressure, kind of direct response guys, they've moved away from a website. They've moved away from everything. No 800 number, no nothing. Now what they say is text a code to get the information, right? Yeah. And the reason why is they do this because we can capture basically the calling phone number. If you think of all of the marketing that you do, the primary goal of the advertising or, a click funnel is to get the real phone number so that you can follow up with that person and sell them something. But if you basically do a text for info, we know we're getting the correct phone number. It's the only way possible that they can place the request is to basically provide their real phone number in that text message. Yep. So we actually use a long format phone versus a short code phone number. Because most people, what happens on that short code, it doesn't look natural in the text message window, and a lot of people don't even know how to do it. And because this is kind of one-to-one marketing, and we're not trying to do this to 95 billion people, we're basically, these are one-to-one relationships that you're developing with people, and you're going to be talking and communicating with them. We want a real phone number, so if they have a question, they can call back. Okay, really powerful in that sense. So let me show you what that basically tool looks like. So it looks something like this. Here's basically a call action phone number. And what you're able to do basically is create a key and a response. The key is the key word that you're asking someone to send in order to receive the response. So as long as we have a match of buyer trends, they're going to get this one. If they typed in leads, they would get the free PDF, basically. If they typed in 3D, they'll get that specific response. So really powerful tool in that sense. Now, where call action takes this all to the next level is that we have API integrations built with a bunch of different CRM systems. As we capture all of this data, we're pushing all of this data directly into your CRM in real time. So if we think of that history that's kind of happening, we might have an online lead that goes from an online form fill where you got all of the proper authorization, TCPA, all of that kind of stuff, hits basically your CRM. You forward that email notification into your call action. Call action sends out the text message to start the engagement or starts the phone call telling that person, hey, call me back. I'm following up in reference to your inquiry. Okay. Now, if you get a call that comes in directly, these are the best leads. So think of offline marketing, billboard, radio, TV, print, direct mail, so on and so forth. You're most likely going to display a phone number. And this right now is a big blind spot for most marketers, right? There's only 3 primary forms of communication, really, and a third of them are blind. meaning the phone call and the text message. So what call action does is by giving you those dedicated call action phone numbers for each one of your marketing pieces, you're able to get that phone call, track where that call is coming from, and then we automatically do the data entry into your CRM, eliminating all of that stuff. If you are a small business owner, a plumber doing marketing or a salesperson or anything like that, imagine how many calls that you've received a missed phone call and you tried to call back.
Yeah.
Never got the business. You call back, the person doesn't answer. So you're like, well, it must have been a tire kicker. I don't know who it is. So you forget about it. But maybe you just spent $1,000 in marketing to try and get that initial inquiry that you just basically threw off. By having a call action phone number, even if that person only did a half a ring, we could push that data down into your CRM. So now you know to consistently follow up with that person and keep doing that follow-up, kind of like what you mentioned basically earlier. So this particular tool, super, super powerful. We have real estate investors that use this. I've got, people that are running print and local magazines that are saying like text for your coupon. We have some restaurants that are doing this, basically, text to get your menu. So now they can build a list of basically all of their customers that are interested in their services. So lots of powerful solutions for you directly in that. So let me stop sharing my screen for a second and let me get into my personal account.
So I know while you're doing that, for some of the people on here, I know I run campaigns for dozens of different clients every month, but from one account, I could just buy a phone number for each client and build a follow-up for that client. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
So
cool.
Definitely for sure. So let me get in here. I'm going to try. I'm trying to think here the best way to do this.
And what's the CRM integration? Is it through Zapier or do you plug directly into other ones?
So we do have a bunch of direct CRM integrations, Podio, a lot of real estate stuff because that's primarily where we got started currently. But Podio is probably the biggest, most flexible one. Soon we'll have Zoho done, Salesforce by the end of the year. We do stuff with Follow Up Boss, Top Producer, Moxie, Tribus. We'll probably do something pretty quick here with Active Campaign because we're really, focusing with, automation as a whole. So Active Campaign is going to be definitely on the top of that list. That's what we use too. So just a lot easier for me. Right now, we can still do it through Zapier, but we'll do a deeper integration with that.
So you do have documentation to plug in through Zapier right now?
Yeah, you can do it. Basically, it's pretty simple. You just take in call action. So let me pop into here so I can kind of show something back into our system. So give me 1 second. I'll share a screen. Come on. Might have so many windows open here. Okay, it looks like this one. All right, so as an example here, let me move this over. Okay, so this is the back end of call action. So really quickly, I'll just kind of show you here. We have all of our different phone numbers that you're able to do. So let's say if you wanted to purchase a brand new phone number for a marketing campaign, click on add phone number. Let's say I'm in Los Angeles, so I'll do a 323 number. I could pull up a list of 323 numbers. And then I can even do something like this in marketing side of things. If I want, kind of a vanity search, I can try and find attractive phone numbers that are easy.
Cool.
That are basically marketing, right?
Nice.
So I go in here, I hit whatever phone number I want, hit get selected. That phone number is instantly added into your account, which would look something like this. So if I click on manage next to that phone number, you'll see the original kind of windows that we were kind of talking about basically earlier. So this is where that call is going to ring to. First message, second message. What this does is if I miss the phone call, it came in, call action will automatically start engaging that particular lead. So you could do something like this where you want to use, let's say, greetings. So this will say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on time of day of that message.
Nice.
It's Jessie. just missed your call. And then maybe you can do something like this where you're going to pull up an emoji to kind of give it some personality and insert that back in there. Okay.
Cool.
So now when this person responds back to this text message, we give you 4 minutes to reply. If you don't reply during that time, then we can continue that conversation. So if you imagine in here, like, hi, Mr. Call, how can I help you? If I'm advertising, I don't know, let's say for you, we'll say use your writing services, right? Like do you need copywriting? Hey, I just missed your call. They would respond back to this. Hey, Gabe, I'm looking for some copywriting. Give me a call whenever you have a chance, right? Maybe something like that. Or what's your cost for copywriting, 200 articles this month.
Right.
So it could be something to that effect. So if you go in here into second message, now what you could do is if you don't respond, you just basically acknowledge them. So maybe you want to do something like a quick thumbs up or something like that. Basically saying like, hey, I got your message. And you could do something like, let me call you around. And then you can use our merge code. So you can say like, let's say 45 minutes. And what this will do is it'll return back the time rounded to the nearest 5 minutes in 45 minutes from now.
Nice.
Right? So this would be like, let me call you around 4:15.
Yeah.
Right? Question mark. And then you can basically find out their preferred means of communication with should I call or text you. So really, really powerful way to connect with a consumer at that moment when they're most interested in doing basically business. Okay. And for you, what you know is the moment this all happened, we captured the lead, we dropped it into your CRM system, we engaged basically that lead. And we haven't covered this yet, but we're doing that reverse data append. So we're going to try and find all of the data about that particular person all in real time. So we're trying to find name, phone number, email address, links to social profiles, properties that they may own, a bunch of different data points. Okay. And I won't go through too much of that because this is my live account. So I don't necessarily want to share, too much information.
That's fine.
So here,
Very
basically, cool. This call follow-up text, the other thing that we try and solve, let's say someone called in and you answered. Because what call action tries to do, and let me show you here in our quick help docs, if you get an inbound phone call from call action, what we're doing is we're sending you a text message that looks similar to this, and letting you know, hey, you're about to get a phone call before your phone rings. This is the text message that you get. When you click on that link, this is when you can see the entire profile of that particular person who is calling in real time. So if they called from a landline, we're going to tell you, hey, it was a landline, call this person back right away. So let's say we have this text exchange. They got your message of the missed phone call. Consumer basically responds back. I'm going to get something that just looks like this on my phone. It's like so-and-so replied. Here's all of the details. Click on the link, go back into the platform, be able to basically make your response. Okay?
Nice.
So kind of going back in here. So if I do talk to them, because I got that upfront text message, now basically I can turn this on and I can say if my phone call lasted at least 15 minutes, because this is a good phone call. This basically means I went deep, I connected with them, had a good time, built rapport, did all of that stuff. I can actually wait maybe like an hour later after we hang up. And I could just do something really simple like this, which is basically a little happy face, maybe do thanks again. Oops, sorry about that. Again, for your time today.
Nice.
Look forward to helping you with your copywriting work, right? And then you would maybe sign this Gabe and then, of url.com.
Right.
Now, the reason why this is important is most people never delete their text messages. So if I talk to someone and I hang up, the call log will go away. But the text messages, if we send this back to them, And especially if we do this delay, there's a couple things that happen. A, makes me feel special. Like, man, Gabe's nice. He's thinking about me like an hour after we hung up, right?
Yeah, I love that.
The other thing that happens with this basically is you're just acknowledging what you guys talked about.
Yep.
Okay. Again, rapport building. If you guys had a really good conversation on this, what is this person going to text back to you? It's like, hey, Gabe, yeah, I'm really excited about getting started. That's the text message you're going to get back. Now, some little interesting fun facts about mobile and tech. The average person looks at their text message window 85 times a day.
Wow.
So that's once every 6 minutes during a regular business day. Right? So imagine you just got done talking to them. An hour later, they get this. They acknowledge in their own writing that they like you. Right? And then the rest of that day, they're scrolling through those text messages, responding to everybody else. And they keep seeing your name over and over and over and over. And what we know in marketing is what? It's 8 times for someone to really remember you, right? So this is basically just accomplishing that for you all automatically. And then you can do stuff, again, you can include any of our merge fields. This kind of gives you an example of basically the list that you can kind of pull down from, okay?
Cool.
So a fair amount of stuff that allows you to really start to personalize all of these outbound kind of text messages. Rest of this stuff is just some settings. We can record the phone calls. We transcribe the recorded phone calls into text and then push that into your CRM. So really, really powerful there. So let me show you the drip campaign interface. So this is it kind of more in real time. So first thing we did is we created some templates for a lot of people because for some of the most common kind of things, right? Maybe you have something that's a website registration. This is, again, mostly real estate specific. But imagine you filled out some website form to be able to see some properties. And then 3 minutes later, you get this text message saying, hey, good afternoon. It's Jesse. Just received your email. You want to access my search site, right? And then 12 seconds later, we do this kind of double text and we say, hey, by the way, to make it easier for us to connect, here's all my contact info. Download it. And then maybe 30 minutes later, we do something like, hey, all the listings on my site are, local. It's real time. If you see something you like, let me know. I'm not selling anything here. I'm just trying to be of service.
Yeah.
Right? Not making any offer, not doing anything. First, I just acknowledge that they're even on our website. That's it. So then you can just kind of see we start pushing this stuff down. So in here, I'm providing, hey, I hope you're having a good Tuesday. Since you're looking at homes, you might need to get prepared with a mortgage. Here's some info for you. And then we come from a place of contribution, helping them with some free bonuses to make them feel good. Because if we give them stuff, then they're going to feel much more likely to do business with us.
What happens in the middle here, Jesse? Like if, say it's one day later, I sent them, here, check this out. And they look at it and they're like, hey, I want to go look at a house now. And you start the real conversation. Do you just have to click in and pause the automation or what happens?
No, the automation stops completely by itself at that moment. And we just do the direct handover directly to you.
Okay. So we just keep pinging them until they reply for real. And then if they reply, then it says, hey, you can pick it up manually from here.
Right. So basically you're going to get the text message. That text message say so-and-so replied, click on the link, drop into the app. Once you're into the app, you respond with text messages as you normally would. So
Very
pretty
cool.
simple workflow. So where it gets interesting though, is like after I talk to that person and let's say they're not ready and they tell me, hey, call me in 3 months, I could build something that continues that conversation, reassign it to them to start in 3 months from now. Right.
Perfect.
11 or 12 weeks later, I just do something that says like, hey, we talked a while back ago. And because you know the original source of the lead, so the phone call, the text message, or the email, always reference back that initial thing and continue that conversation.
Cool.
You're not introducing new phone numbers. It's always the same phone number. So the person will basically just think it's always you. So we call it authentic automation. This is really our goal is it needs to feel from you. So when that handoff, when the person basically is responding, you're jumping back in, it feels very natural. There's no disconnect whatsoever.
Awesome.
So There's
Very
no weird handoffs or anything like that that is basically taking place during that period of time. So let me just show you where the magic happens in our windows here. And I'm just going to try and do this really, really quickly. So I'll forsake my own stuff here. So, so in here, this is where our interface is. Left-hand side would be all of your leads that have come through, all of your kind of connections that have taken place. The middle is all of the conversation. So here, you know, we could see an inbound phone call that came in. Then I sent in a text message called Craigslist, and I set up my automatic responder to basically show people like what they could get through Craigslist.
awesome.
Then I assigned myself a campaign. So this is my automated campaign. This is my voicemail drop that I sent to myself. So if I play this, let's see if we can hear it here. I don't know if this will work this way. Let's try. Nope. So it won't work because this is on the opposite channel.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
I'll show it to you at the other end. And then you can see, hey, good morning. Just call. Thanks for entering the raffle. Thanks for some information. And then we just did this kind of follow-up. You can see here 16 days, 12 days. This is kind of like a double one, basically promoting a webinar that we were doing and just kind of going all the way down line, basically. Here on the left-hand side is all of our reverse data append. So you could see all of the information that we're able to basically find on people, including addresses, street views, and anything like that, basically. Okay.
Nice.
So really, really quickly on that, here's where you can assign basically drip campaigns and continue that conversation as time kind of progresses with that particular phone call. Now in our dashboards here, what we're able to do is we're able to basically pull up specific phone numbers, and this is where your marketing starts to take place. And we'll give you data like this, tell you the number of phone calls you had, average length of your phone calls, did you answer the phone calls, did you answer the text messages that came in, and then you could see stuff like time and day that you're getting the most amount of inquiries. So if you're day parting any of your advertising, you could really start to kind of figure out when the people are most active based on whatever the kind of advertising that you're running. So like what we sometimes coach is run basically 24 hours, see when your inquiries are coming, start to day part, concentrate all your budget into that one kind of window that seems to basically get the most action. So
Very cool.
pretty straightforward kind of thing from there, all in real time. So, so yeah, so this kind of gives you an idea in terms of our platform and what you're able to basically do. Pretty straightforward. Aside than that, you know, what I would say is in our help docs. So if you go help.callaction.co, we have a bunch of integrations. We have this thing called workflows. So this just gives you some ideas and some ways that you can use our services. Right now, predominantly all real estate specific, because that's just kind of the niche that we're really hyper focused on.
Right.
Call Action is basically a platform with multiple systems within it. And it's all open-ended, it's all loose. So it could be applied to any business, because if you think of all business, it all comes down to basically an inbound phone call, inbound text message, or basically an inbound email, and starting that engagement with those particular people to create real conversations. Because you could send emails until you're blue in the face, but real business is not going to happen until the two people basically talk.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is get those people basically connected and talking really, really quickly, or as soon as possible. Okay?
Very cool.
I don't know. Anything else I can share with you?
I think that's a great overview. Let me just look at
Let's
anything.
take a look. I'm going to close this up and pop into your Facebook here.
Yeah, look, I think we covered it all. The questions that came in here, you answered.
Anything else? Yeah.
Which is awesome. So
cool.
Yeah, so this is fantastic, and I wanted to share with everybody here because a lot of different industries, a lot of lead gen, but a lot of different things too, and
yeah.
So we could take. I'll just use a couple case examples to make sure we're understanding correctly. So I could take a contact form and have it parsed into your system, and then have a voicemail drop or a text go out right away. So that could happen, obviously. And then, like you said, I love the idea of like a Craigslist ad or a contest or a text for more info. I mean, those do extremely well. And I really like what you said too. I never thought about it until you mentioned it, that using a full length phone number feels like a real person on the other end instead of those short numbers that you never know if you got it right or it looks weird, like you said on your phone.
Right. Yeah. If you look at, if you start entering in, trying to text someone on the phone, it's an incomplete number, and mentally that just feels wrong. Like,
doesn't
either
work.
way you just look at it, you're like, wait a second, this is not right. Like, so it's a really strange thing. All of the direct response guys do it because it's the only way that you could do it at scale. So if they're running an ad, basically, a traditional number is going to be limited in terms of the number of text messages and things like that. And the short code is designed specifically for at scale text communication.
Right.
But
this allows you to be targeted.
Yeah, but that's not the niche that we're playing in basically as a company.
Right.
We're not basically going to say like, oh, upload an entire database of all of your customers and spam the crap out of everyone. That has nothing to do with what we do basically.
It's all inbound.
Yeah, it's all inbound. It's all consumer initiated through basically your own marketing, where you have all of your proper disclosures and all of that stuff. And what you're trying to do as a marketer or as a salesperson or as a business is you're trying to basically work with that customer face to face, belly to belly, get on a phone call, shake their hand.
Yeah.
If that's the case, basically, then you need to have really authentic automation.
Yeah.
We know that basically spam goes nowhere, and that's going to be so counterintuitive to what you're trying to do in the first place. So that's why we don't even allow you to upload contacts into our service. They all need to come in real time based off of their own volition, their own inquiry that they did with you.
Nice.
So if I had a website, I want to have basically a call action phone number on there because I want to know like that my website is generating inquiries.
Yeah.
And where most of us kind of fail right now is, let's say I'll use you as an example in your business for copywriting. If you're running all of your business into basically a cell phone number for sake of conversation, which a lot of us will do, what will happen is if someone said, hey, I'm interested in some copywriting services. And you're like, okay, how can I help you? Like, you're going to go through kind of that conversation. Now, imagine if you, knew that it was from an ad that you were running that was advertising copywriting services of $5,000 or more. Like, you've already qualified that lead in a roundabout way because you understand the context of where it came from to begin with. And that is critical to understanding basically your funnels. Just like a top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. That why is it that really when the person is most likely going to pull the trigger and make the biggest decisions, which is going to be call, verify, does this company really exist? Should I give them my money? That we're totally blind on this. We're just leaving this all to chance, right? We just have one Google Voice phone number. It makes no sense whatsoever, basically. But anyway, so that's basically the stuff that we kind of look at, and where we think about this is if you can understand the context of where the lead came from, then you can respond and have that conversation much more effectively right from the very beginning. And then all of your follow-up responses become highly targeted to match the context of where that lead came from in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So if I, through my reverse data pen, using your same example, hey, we're interested in some copywriting services, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, like, where are you calling from or something like that, you start qualifying them. But imagine if you saw the phone call come in and then you realize like, hey, this is a massive business, that's calling me. This is like a really big deal. And knowing that before you even really start to qualify them, and you can really kind of have that context. So right away you would know like these were advertising, and this kind of customer will pay $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month because they want, hundreds of articles written through our services. You can have that conversation right away and not set basically some price anchor at like, oh, well, we charge, $16 an article, whatever it might be, when you should be charging, $1,600.
Yeah. That's very cool. And if I build out, like, for example, like if I'm running traffic for a mortgage broker, I build out all the tools you show us, like the automations, the drip follow-ups and all that stuff.
Yep.
then I go land my next mortgage broker. Can I just click and clone what I built, or
Yep.
do I?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So we allow you to basically share and import all of basically the templates. What I would do in a situation like that is you're just going to write the script and you're going to tell basically the lender like, hey, you need to call in, say, record this message, this message, this message, this message. Because it's this mix of having, all of these different types of messages and not being mono-channel, like basically being cross-channel.
Mm-hmm.
All of those different touch points, it really increases that engagement rate and makes it feel authentic. Because if you just plain text, plain text, plain text, plain text,
it looks like a bot.
it looks like a bot, right? It's just like email, like it doesn't really go anywhere. We know that the most effective emails are the ones that don't look like email. It looks like a misspelling, some guy going like, hey Joe, like, I saw you were on Facebook and you talked about such and such. I think I can help you. Like it's creating that illusion of authenticity. If you look at all of direct mail marketing right now, this is the path, right? Is they're not saying spam and jam. They're basically saying accumulate data, personalize those messages so that they're really one-to-one communications, but use automation at scale to create that impression. And that's all that we're trying to do. No different than, what Active Campaign is basically doing. So
very cool.
You could merge in, suck down LinkedIn profiles and say like, hey, I saw that you used to work at such and such company, and you do that kind of a mail merge email. Those are deadly.
Right.
So it's just, how do you take it to the next level beyond basically email?
Inbox.
Yep. Because, the reality is this, if we kind of think about it, if your target demographic is someone that works behind a computer, email is going to work great, right? If there's in business, the vast majority of people don't work behind a desk and work behind email. If you're selling a product that goes to a construction worker, or, some guy at a gym, or, any of those other kinds of things, you're lucky if they're checking email once a month. And when they do, what are they faced with? All of the coupons they signed up for and everything else, basically. They're looking, trying to plow through that. And if we as, professionals that are focused on basically email all of the time can't keep inbox zero, there's no way in hell that somebody like that is going to basically keep inbox zero.
No kidding.
So,
Very cool.
So that's basically it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Jesse. I think this is just a huge, amazing tool because it adds another channel where we can be reaching out to people, because like email and Facebook and, traditional calling and everything is all great. But the more you surround somebody, and I love what you said about, I didn't know those stats, but it makes sense because I do close to that. I'm sure like seeing your messages, hundreds of times a day probably or close is like, that's an awesome way to have that brand impression, which is great. And then I'm impressed, man. It's awesome. I know we looked at it quickly the other day, but this was an awesome. And
the brand impression too. And if you think about this, what happens is like that simple, innocuous after the phone call kind of text message.
Yeah.
In general, who do you send text messages to?
Your friends and your family, people you want to hang out with or work with.
Right. Exactly. Right. So, and people only do business with people that are friends and family. So if you accelerate that impression that we're connected by making it okay to basically start having this text conversation and getting your information in front of them and just simply acknowledging like, hey, I just want to say thanks, man. Like that in itself, and they're naturally going to respond back to that. That is very, very powerful because you make this connection of like, well, I call this, I'll use a plumbing example, right? If I talked to one plumber and he gave me a quote, and I talked to another plumber and I text messaged that person after, and then he made me kind of feel good, who am I going to do business with? Right. Who am I going to be able to find easier in the future? I'm going to go back through all of my text messages and be like, where's that guy at? Like, I know I talked to someone in there.
Yeah.
So that's what we're hyper focused on. But just to be 100% clear, like this is all based on people responding to your marketing that you're already doing.
Yeah. And that's perfect. We do a ton of that. And I know a lot of the folks in the group here, we're already doing already bringing the leads in, that's not a problem per se, but like the follow-up is sometimes where it's hard to figure out how to build that automation or do it manually or whatever it is. So this is
we look at it from, like, let's say if you take an average salesperson who's working leads, right? Let's say you got 100% of leads, 3 to 5% are going to go right away. It's that 95%. That's where all the gold is, right? And that's going to take, depending on whatever your sales cycle is, could be a week, it could be months or years, basically, of following up. So how do we stay top of mind in a way that feels very natural with those people? And it's not going to be, sending a monthly email and just, jam in their box, but it could just be one text message every 4 months, just be like, hey man, I'm just checking in, seeing if you're still in the market. Let me know how you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And that is going to feel much more authentic and get much more interaction than anything else you can possibly do out there. So
yeah, no kidding. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jesse. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll have you back again soon. And definitely let me know when you roll out Active Campaign. I'd love to plug into that. But it looks like you got a bunch of stuff already ready to go. So obviously everybody can check it out at callaction.co. Yep. And you've got a trial that you can sign up for there.
We do 14 days basically free.
Cool.
And then we offer a 30-day money-back guarantee as well. So realistically, you can use the service for basically 45 days. If by that time you haven't seen the value, then you just don't have enough leads. So
there you go.
And you probably, will be too expensive for you anyways.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for being on, man. And I really appreciate it. This looks like an awesome tool, and we'll definitely send some folks your way, and keep at it. You're building something amazing here. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Right. Appreciate the opportunity. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Today's Business Leaders with Gabe Arnold. Remember to subscribe on iTunes. For more information, visit todaysbusinessleaders.com.